This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all members present, and interim administrator Reynolds is present. Support services Gosha Wormsbacher, and clerk Donna Ott. We will begin with citizen input. Please be advised per 19.84 parent 2 that information and comment will be received from the public. It is the policy of this municipality that public input be limited to a 4-minute period per person, with the time extension granted at the direct discretion of the chairperson. Be advised there may be limited discussion of the information received, but no action will be taken under public comments. Comments that may be injurious to village personnel or other individuals will not be allowed. Is there anyone wishing to come forward for public comment?
Oh, okay. Lynn Bittnars, 10121 Pawnee Court. I just want to comment on a couple of things. There is the thing on our board about TIDs. This is an attack to delay the TID. And we have a request for a TID incentive. The taxpayers have continually said no to anything with these TIDs because the majority of people have come in this meetings time and time and said no. And on this particular issue, until we actually have a policy for handling future projects, this should be said no to. You don't even, there's supposed to be a final complete disclosure from Baird on this. And you don't even know who the tenant is. What if it's somebody we don't want? I mean, how can you even vote on something when you don't have any information? It doesn't make sense to me. It's ridiculous. And I don't understand how a board can make a decision on something they're lacking all the information. In fact, you don't even know who's going to take over this position as a tenant. I'll say more on that when I have the board meeting, but moving on to IT services in Washington County. I've got a lot of issues with Washington County with things going on, and we should not be hand control of what we use to anybody. And it's not necessary that we surrender this control to somebody else. I don't think it's a smart move. Of course, that's me, but I don't think it is. And now on the budget and the debt capacity, a majority of residents at MyFest, okay, made their desires known. A lot of taxpayers moved here because we are quiet. It was low key living, and they resent the extreme push by our development department to do otherwise. I received a copy of the 2050 plan, and I'll cover more what's in there at the board meeting. It's very surprising. Our borrowing debt is out of line. We need a stricter budget and a stricter control over our spending. Our debt activity needs an overhaul. And in 1981, Germantown Chamber of Commerce was promoted by local leaders to alleviate tax burdens on the expanding group of residents. And they made a condition that home expenses should not exceed 30% of their income. Really? Mine's already at 40% because of these recent tax hikes and the coming ones. It's going to be unbelievable. And with the projections I presented previously, that is going to rise. And I think this is something you as a group should take control of. Not only that, but farmland in Germantown has decreased 25% according to the 250 plan. I've been reading that plan. It's very surprising what's in there and what these boards are not doing for the residents. And it points back to our development department that in some opinions should be overhauled. And I went into the village to talk to our assistant in the department, and I got a very rude comment from the director. How can we really help you? And I'm sorry I said what I did, but it's the opinion of a lot of people. I said, I think we need a new development director. And I said, maybe we need to change the way we're doing business in this community before we get taxed out of living here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Can you reset the clock to 4 minutes because that's what we have in the agenda? Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. A couple of subjects. So this item for the TID 8 only just surfaced, as I understand it, this past week. And there's only so much information in the packet about it. And what I'm going to suggest is that it gets moved to the Economic Development Commission as part of a way of starting the work to develop TID policies. This has been suggested by both the Director of Planning and Christian from the EDWC. And why not start with this? There's information in there that needs to be evaluated. For instance, I looked at the number of people that would be coming to the village as part of the jobs program, 85 people with an average of $57,000 a year, which isn't very much. If you factor in that some of those people are executives or at management level, that's probably $20, maybe $25 an hour for the actual regular person. And based on those prices, none of those people will be moving into any of the recent apartments that have been approved or are on the way to be approved, or only some of the much older buildings in residences in the area. So I believe we should be looking at high quality jobs for our community. I also believe that there's a place for manual labor type jobs in manufacturing because we need to fill out some of those properties. But rather than just shove it through in one evening, why don't we take an opportunity to really look at it and really decide what the policies for this village should be? Nothing ever gets written down here, and it drives me up the wall. We don't have policies that are written. We don't have things that get pointed to. We don't have a flow that's known about how items from an agenda standpoint get moved to which committees, which commissions, and how they finally end up at the village board. We've heard many, many times that items get put on agendas and then the same night they're moved to the village board for approval. And then they come back and bite the village because there hasn't been enough time to do the homework, the due diligence, to look into the costs, to look into the various things. We have a couple of examples right now to do with the buildings for public safety. We need those buildings, but the manner in which they have been put together and the fact that the people who were involved with those pieces of work did not complete all of the homework. And now we have some overruns and possibly a poor project delivery structure for the fire, for maybe both of them. We need to relook at those things. So that's what I mean by, are we really taking the time to step back and make sure that we're looking at these things so that we are making good decisions with the resources that we have? The last thing I'll say is about IT. Is that we learned from the dispatch example when it got moved up that things didn't work out as swimmingly as we were told. So I would also take another look at that and ask for more information. Oh, I have one more thing. And so I am also requesting that the 5-year capital plan for expenditures, the TID closings, the tax projections, and all of those evaluations be requested of Baird as a financial advisor, not as a seller of bonds, but as a financial advisor in that capacity, be worked on so that we can look at that in June's Economic Development Commission meeting along with the TID 8 item. Thanks.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward for public comment? Anybody online? Okay. We will move on to item 4, consent agenda A, April 2026 meeting minutes, and it's an action item.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. It's unanimous. Motion carries. There is no unfinished business, so we will go on to item 6, new business. We will start item A, professional services agreement with Innovative Public Advisors LLC for the provision of interim finance director staffing, and this is an action item.
Sure. So I've been tasked with presenting this to the committee, obviously with our interim administrator, who otherwise would be the one that would address these types of things, being employed by the same company that we're proposing here. That conflict of interest just means that somebody else should be doing it. With Matthew's Uselding's departure, we've identified that we probably need to have an interim director that's in place to handle kind of the overseeing of the various tasks that everybody within the department has otherwise been assigned. It's something that we've heard from each of the folks within the department that they're looking for that kind of oversight to just have somebody that's there to check what's going on and to provide guidance. We've looked at various options. One of the options the board had suggested at one point was Baird. Baird does not want to do that. They view that to be a conflict of interest as well, given their responsibilities. Otherwise, talked with a couple other companies, including some companies that are not municipal focused, but instead were just folks that come in and do kind of finance director type stuff in the private sector. And ultimately, we were able to identify through IPA, the former Thiensville administrator, who has been retired now for a couple of years, but is willing to come in and help on a limited term basis to handle those things. So the proposal before you is with Innovative Public Advisors, which would then in turn employ that individual for the purposes of providing about 20 hours a week of financial services.
Anybody have any questions for Attorney Sajak? Trustee
Do we have to make a motion before we ask a question?
I don't believe that's what you guys
Okay.
did in the past. Terry?
What is the, you said they're administrator.
Sometimes they discuss.
Okay, they said they were an administrator. What financial, does she have financial background or other than just administrator, like actual financial, like random finance? I looked it over, but I couldn't really ascertain from that.
Yeah, I guess I don't know for sure. Other than obviously in Thiensville, she was doing everything as the administrator. They don't have a separate finance department, and so it was her that was running it. I know from my work in Mequon and working with the Southern Ozaki Fire Department, which is the combination of Mequon and Thiensville's fire departments, that the current administrator similarly is very involved in the budget, and they've got tough budgets there because they're built out, don't have a lot of net new construction, and so finance has been probably the bulk of her responsibility, and I think that was probably the same when Miss Robertson was there as well.
Okay, thank you.
What's her first name?
Diane?
Why don't I remember her? So are we essentially saying that this is who we have as our option?
Yeah, I think, you know, the fact that she's got municipal experience being the key, you know, after talking with the two folks from the private sector that we had identified, it was clear that, you know, the real need that we have is just somebody to kind of help, you know, guide the budget process and some of the reporting things that are key to municipalities. And while, you know, certainly somebody from the private sector could come in and learn those things and figure it out, you know, just in terms of the critical nature of those requests and duties, we thought that it would be better to have somebody with that experience already in hand.
Okay, Trustee Kaminsky?
So basically Innovative Public Advisors has control of her, pays her, is responsible for her, recommends her
Correct.
while they're looking for our finance director.
Correct.
And so she's worked for them before, I presume.
I don't believe so. I think that they reached out to her as you know, because Jay obviously is kind of from the area and knew that she's been around. And I think he reached out directly to her to say, hey, is this something that you would have some
And
interest
she's handled the budget process before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the administrator in Thiensville for 20 some years, I think it was. So,
Okay. I'll make a motion to, let's see how it's stated here, to approve professional services agreement as recommended by Innovative Public Advisors for a finance director.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We'll move on to new business item B, request for potential TID incentive for a prospective tenant in the Gateway Corporate Park, TID 8, and establishing a policy for handling future requests. And this is an action item.
So this gets to be me again, at least to start. Basically, we have a request that's been brought forward from the folks at Washington County Economic Development for the purposes of a potential TID incentive. Basically, the terms of that incentive would be identical to the terms that we just approved for Flamingo Marine. So as part of this item, obviously, there is that particular request that's a little bit time sensitive in terms of the company's making decisions and is looking to move forward. But it also brings up the question, and we heard a little bit of it tonight, even from the citizen comment, that the Flamingo Marine process was highly criticized in terms of, you know, it didn't go through committees and board members didn't know what was going on and all of those types of concerns. And so we also wanted to then take the opportunity to say, you know, as we move forward with additional requests that come in, you know, how do we want to handle this? And I would echo Ms. Smythe's comments that I do think the Economic Development Commission at the end of the day should be tasked with creating a TID policy that would help establish not only where and when we would use TIDs as a village, but then also talk about, you know, what types of incentives the village would utilize within TIDs as well. And those processes, I think, could be undertaken and done, and I would encourage that. But in terms of what, you know, handling specific proposals like the one that's before the board currently, you know, there's kind of four ways that we've identified that potentially could be used. The first is the traditional approach. That traditional approach typically was that the request would come to the full village board, and the full village board would typically meet often in closed session to talk about the particular proposal, talk about negotiating strategy in terms of how we wanted to handle it, and then it would come back after everything was negotiated and done. That approach could continue to be used. Obviously, there's been critiques of that particular process. A modified approach would be to utilize a standing committee, perhaps GGF, perhaps Public Works, to basically follow what the municipal code says, which is every action is supposed to have a recommendation from a standing committee. And so you could start at a standing committee that could be, as we've done here today, somewhat in public. We could schedule closed sessions at the committee level as well to do that. And then ultimately that could then be taken and recommended to the village board. The only potential negative to that approach is just that, on a particularly time sensitive request, you end up with the same issue that we have tonight, which is you're going to see, back-to-back meetings on the same night potentially, where they're both going to be considered. Doesn't have to be that way, obviously, but just recognize that if you're building in that time, then that's just something that we need to make sure that developers and folks in the public are aware of as they're looking to plan out their strategies moving forward. Third option would be to utilize the Plan Commission in some way. Plan Commission obviously has lots of tasks that are related to planning and development. Formulating the comprehensive plan, for example, is one of the tasks that they help in. Not really, in my opinion, the role of the Plan Commission to weigh in on specific requests like the one before you, but certainly could be a possibility. The last possibility would be to utilize the Economic Development Commission in kind of the same way, where they might weigh in on a particular request as part of that. I think if we wanted to utilize the Economic Development Commission in that way moving forward, we would probably need to change the code. In my opinion, the code is the duties and powers of the EDC under the current code really deal more with policy type issues and not specific individual requests. And so the EDC, as we talked about when we opened, would be a fantastic body to help us set policies as we move forward for future requests for TIDs and TID incentives as part of that. Not so much for dealing with the specific request that's before us tonight or in the future. If we wanted to do that, as I say, I think we would need to modify the code in some way to build that in as part of that. So those are kind of the two issues that are before you, both the, how do we want to move forward, with future requests, and then also perhaps a little bit of a discussion with respect to the request that's presently before the board.
Trustee Kaminsky.
I'd like to hear from our Economic Development Director from Washington County on this. You put the plan together, correct? Yeah. I think we need an overview of that for people in the audience as well as for all of us. And specifically answering questions like, does this bring us any closer to closing that TID out quicker? Is it how, what are the downsides? What are the upsides? If you could just please, for everybody, give us an overview. Give us a 5, 6, 7-minute overview of where we're at on this. And while you're walking up there, I'll say my feeling in all of this is that you need flexibility when you're dealing with companies coming in. One size does not fit all. Every situation is different. And if you want to be known as a business-friendly community, if we want to close out this TID, you have to be somewhat flexible. I'm not saying that you have to agree with this, but I think that flexibility is key. And I also feel that moving forward, I think it'd be great to get our Economic Development Committee involved in this, setting some policy, which wouldn't affect this, but would put it somewhere else, bring back your ideas to the full village board and take it from there.
Madam Chair, if I can, just before Christian gets going, I will note that Justin Fisher from Baird is here to answer questions specifically about the TID and the health of the TID and its capacity.
Thank you.
I have to push a button.
Nope, you're on.
I'm on. Okay. So the last time I had the opportunity to brief the village board, there were a couple of points that were made very clear. One, we needed to get in front of the village board earlier in the process. And even though we don't have a process yet, we just needed to get in front of the village board earlier at this point. And then 2, close that TID as quick as humanly possible. So with those 2 objectives, we identified a project that you have in front of you, and that is profiled in the open session materials. This project accomplishes the objective of closing TID early, both according to our estimates and according to what I interpret from the Baird analysis as well. The reason it does so is we've essentially, with this project, we would have closed the final gap in effectively justifying the build out of the last building, and that is the last short-term lease that exists on the existing portfolio. For those who are in finance, I know Mr. Heffley had mentioned earlier your background in finance. You recognize that a short-term lease is not monetizable. It's not something you can use in a collateral and security environment compared to a long-term lease. And therefore, us closing that particular gap effectively gets rid of any barrier that exists to build out of that final building. The second piece of this is that you want to identify a company that has the ability to durably invest, be it present in that site. The company that we have in this project is a high-end advanced manufacturer. We do have some previous experience with this company, as they are an existing business in Washington County, for which the current location and community, because we did work with the existing community, is not able to meet their expansion needs. So they will be moving. The only question is where, and of course, we would like to retain them here in Washington County, and in this particular case, in the village of Germantown. The average wages are at or above the county's median, particularly when you look at the positions that are contemplated with this particular project. The 85 positions does not include any executive level positions. The highest position, and that would only be one of the 85, is a director role for the operations of the particular facility. All the others are everything from robotics, welding operators, that sort of thing, roughly around the $28 per hour, depending on the position, of course, some in the $35 or so an hour. So when we run our analytics, those are family sustaining wages, particularly if it's just, one individual. Obviously, most families have both adults, if there's two adults in the family working. The other piece we look at is the return on investment, and we run our analytics tools through to determine that. In this particular case, after incentives, you're looking at a net benefit of about 2.6 million. And all of that, of course, or I shouldn't say all of it, a overwhelming portion does accrue to TID 8, which is why we're able to drive a faster return for TID, particularly in lieu of the build out of that last building. That puts us at about an estimated payback of a little bit over 5 years, almost 6 years actually, which is well within our normal tolerances. In fact, it's pretty darn accelerated, all things considered. So we're dealing with an advanced manufacturer, great project, outstanding job creation, and most importantly, as it relates to the direction that was given to us, we're getting to you early, which has a very strong timing implication. If we're going to involve a board or a committee or a commission, we have to be able to respond quickly, and many tracks have to be able to move simultaneously. Unfortunately, for many, business decisions don't occur in a multi-month sequence that takes 3 and 4 months to make. They've got to make decisions far more quickly than that, which is why we're asking for the requested action of approving us to move forward with a proposal, which is not the final word. The proposal just essentially establishes the tenor of the deal and the overall structure of the deal, subject to underwriting and all of the other normal due diligence that we would go through and then be able to present to the village board before you would get to a final agreement. So I think that's my 6 minutes.
Trustee Kaminsky?
What are the top benefits for people who are maybe questioning whether we want to do this? How does this really benefit us? And what is the risk to Germantown in doing it this way?
So From what I understand in terms of the community's objectives, the top benefit is getting that TID 8 closed so that all of that tax revenue can accrue to the various taxing bodies that right now TID 8 is capturing. So the way we get that accomplished is by getting these existing leases all long-term. The other major benefit here is diversification of your portfolio of types of jobs. Again, these are high-quality, advanced manufacturing types of positions, lots of automation. So you've got some of advanced skill sets that are going into these positions. The risk is a key thing that we have also heard in the past from this board is not something that you all like to undertake, that you're generally speaking very conservative and risk averse. And therefore, we're taking on the bulk of the performance risk here, if not really all of the performance risk, and that if the company does not perform, it becomes and is retained as a debt on the part of the company, for which then EDWC is managing that debt as part of our overall portfolio. And in fact, we believe so strongly in this project that while we've retained the village portion to be mirroring what was approved for Flamingo, we're coming in at a higher level to be able to support some of the additional equipment investments that are required to really make this project move forward. This truly would be a win for Washington County and for the village of Germantown.
The 85 jobs, Christian, that's new jobs above and beyond what they already have.
That is
right?
correct. So if they choose this site and they build out and continue to build out at this location, occupying the total of 202,000 square feet, in addition to the 85 new jobs, you would be retaining the existing positions within this company as they would all locate to the singular facility.
And if you do meet or they meet the performance objectives, then the payback of the loan comes out of the TID.
A portion, half,
Portion.
because we're adding additional to support the acquisition of that advanced equipment that they are looking to acquire as part of this expansion.
Trustee
I don't
Headley.
have a specific question, just some comments on what we're looking at. So whenever that's time for that.
You can make your comments now.
Should I sit down?
So I was on the EDC for 3 years, and I'm now the EDC chairperson, and I'm the third chairperson in 3 years. So we're going to see what we can do. The TID policy has been suggested that we work on, and I think it's something that we'll take a look at. But obviously, that is not today or tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first meeting of EDC, so the timing of this is interesting. I can tell you, because I'm the newest person to the board, that the traditional approach is not working from an optic in this village and will not work in the future, where it's just showing up and happening. Christian was here with the EDC when he presented the Flamingo thing, which was been worked on for some time, but it came to the board quite late and needed a quick decision. I think everybody knew that, watched that. I wasn't in favor of that, I like to have time and numbers and things to look at. Rash decisions, quick decisions are not good in business. The hybrid approach I definitely approve of, which is the standing committee approach, where at least goes by a standing committee. Nothing goes directly to the village board unless it's an emergency like a tornado or something. Other than that, it's got to go through a standing committee, just my opinion. So if we're saying that's the approach tonight, I really don't know that it is, because I didn't know anything about any of this till Thursday, and now we're asking for committee action on a Monday night, which that's not a lot of time, to be honest. Plan commission, not an option. They're busy enough. And the EDC, like I said, this is for the future to see, even if it's something we can take on from a code perspective or otherwise, and what the commission members think. So the only thing that makes sense to me is the hybrid approach. But I'm not comfortable with the hybrid approach that involves things going directly to the village board from the commission an hour later. I don't think that is a way to do things correctly. You need time to think about things. So that's my comment on that. In regards to the current incentive, I do hear a lot of things like the TID's going to close early. The TID's going to close early. I have not seen permanent numbers from Baird or anyone saying when the TID is going to close if these things work out. Hearing it's going to close versus this is the year it could close under this scenario, that scenario, that scenario, is something I have yet to see from Baird or anyone else. And that's important to people in this village and should be important to us, is how to make that happen. So I'm saying that I have concerns about this because it seems like it kind of popped up on us, even though I know it's been working on behind the scenes. And as a trustee, I'm uncomfortable with having those things happen because we're supposed to be the vetting committee for that. So those are my overall comments.
We
Trustee
just
Peep?
add to that, all fair points. You know, also things that we heard as we went through the Flamingo Marine process. That's one of the reasons that we're here at this point now. It's a little bit different in that Christian already kind of had the benchmark of Flamingo and you know, negotiated that, I think, you know, under the guess that that was going to be the what was acceptable ultimately to the board. But you know, at this point, you know, Christian's been the only one that's had conversations with them, you know, in terms of everything else. The echo is very distracting. But certainly one of the things that could happen tonight, either here or as part of the board action, would be to set whatever parameters we want to set. It does, you know, we've earmarked Flamingo as something that had just been approved and maybe works. That you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we need to do tonight. We're in on this at an earlier point than I think we were with Flamingo Marine when Christian came and presented on that. Is that fair?
Yeah, we're at the full stage, whereas before we
Go up there.
I'm going to ask Justin from Baird to come up. If you could give us a little insight on this, please.
Just make a quick comment before he comes up.
Okay, go ahead.
We have heard in the past, we get updates on the TIDs every quarter. Baird's new, but every quarter we've gotten updates, when they're gonna close, what's involved in them. So, I mean, I don't feel in the dark on that. Just wanted to make that comment that we do that regularly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so I've started working with Mitch on evaluating the TIF number 8 and essentially what's in your packet, I believe, is recreation of the existing tax increment district number 8. And the way it's kind of modeled in here, from what you can see, is we aren't factoring in any future construction increments. So if there's additional increment, great. That's just going to make the potential tax revenues look higher than they are today, but there's a lot of projections in these pro formas, right? It's what's your tax rate going to be year over year? We're basically holding that flat. It has been dropping year over year just because valuations have been going up. So that's a big factor in what your tax revenue in the TID is going to look like. What, you know, we factored in the debt service. So a lot of the standing things we can factor in, professional services, admin expenses, et cetera. And based on what the pro forma looks like as today, using a 2% inflation factor to the existing area, which when you look at the pro forma, the base value for this was $640,000 when we started, or when you guys started and created this thing, and currently the value is above $240 million. So that creates that tax increment over base that I have highlighted there of 239,693,600. You take that times the tax rate, and that's what's getting you the tax revenue. And so from there, it's going to change year over year based on all those assumptions that I talked about a second ago. But based on what we're seeing, if all things stay consistent with this, based on that, 2031 is when it's looking like the TID may have enough revenue to pay back all the expenditures that are currently in here.
Anybody have any questions for Justin?
So
Trustee
I don't know
Heffley?
if that's earlier or later, but.
I have a
uh,
question for the attorney. I have a question for the attorney. And my only question is, when you say like, okay, you're not really making a decision, but you're making the decision tonight. What we're doing is setting wheels in motion to have a proposal come to the village board for final thought process. So really what we're doing is activating a path for them where they come back with a final proposal and then we basically, so this is getting us, in my opinion, 60-70% of the way to saying yes to them. Because the only thing we could negotiate is the terms of parameters of whatever it is. So this is a very serious decision because it involves resources of a TID. And I'm sorry if I'm the only one up here saying this, I'm fine with that. I was uncomfortable with how Flamingo was handled and I'm a little uncomfortable with how this is being presented. You know, what will I do about it? I'll do what I can with it, but I'm just stating a fact that I'm uncomfortable with that. And I want to know from you that if we're going forward and the village board says, okay, and can do what they want, right? That will set the wheels in motion and they'll be back with saying, now you need to approve this, much like Flamingo did, but at a more advanced stage Flamingo was versus this. Is that a fair thing to say?
Correct. Basically, any action tonight, assuming action is taken, would be to direct us to finalize the negotiations on whatever terms the board decides to do. Those negotiations will come back with a final agreement that ultimately the board will approve once it's ready.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Pieper, any questions? Trustee Kaminsky? Okay, I think, thank you, Justin. I think that this should go to economic development to come up with a policy for how we handle this going forward and a TID policy for sure. So that we have this kind of ironed out ahead of time. I do understand, I would like to get this TID closed as soon as possible. As I've said before, I'm not a fan of TID, so the sooner we can close it, the better. And, I don't know if there's a better way to do it because this business that wants to possibly move needs their privacy to make their decision. So we can't come in and give us all kinds of information about the company if they don't want the information getting out. So I don't know how it could come forward with more information. I don't know if there's any thoughts on that, but I'm for closing the TID as soon as possible. Trustee Kaminsky.
What is the time frame on this, Christian? What are they asking? Okay, so we have one more board meeting. I don't want to lose a company based on us saying we want to send something to another committee. We don't have time to come up with a policy and approve this because we'll be going through this whole scenario again in June. I'm totally in favor with this. We have worked with Christian for 20 years. Am I saying at this point? We have filled up how many of our business parks with your help? And this is how business is done, whether you like TIDs or not. We have a TID. We want to get it filled. 31 is early, by the way, as our old financial advisor would have told us. Let's just get this done. Let's move this to the village board and we have to duke it out there. I am totally in favor of this. And I'm going to make a motion to move this forward as presented.
I will second. So, for discussion, my thought just went out of my head, sorry. So you really need two things. We have our motion to go to the village board, but we can also make a recommendation as far as economic development, working on a TID policy.
Well, and I guess I was going to ask that question
make
was
it- I will make a
as
second
presented, do we mean to say that we're going to,
Can I have two motions here?
you could do two motions?
I would like that as a separate motion that the Economic Development Committee come up with a policy, a flexible policy, hopefully, to handle these situations in the future.
Point of order, I thought we couldn't have two motions on the floor at the same time. Yes, there's two
Right, I'm just-
motions.
Separate motion.
Yeah,
Trying to figure out if she's making two or if she's amending her.
no, she
existing
was making
motion.
two separate, so we have to,
That's
we
fine.
have to address the first motion on the table right now.
That's two separate topics.
Okay.
So
that's
you'd
fine.
have to wait until,
Yeah.
Okay, is there any discussion on the first motion, which is to move this forward to the village board? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I,
Okay. Aye.
All right, it's 2-2, so it goes forward with no recommendation.
Then I'll make the second motion to
Second.
present this to economic development to come up with a policy.
Any discussion on that? Trustee
Yeah,
Pepper?
as the new chair of economic development, and I know Terry, you were chair at some point. Maybe the committee, maybe the attorney can help me with this. I don't know that it is within our purview as we act at the behest of the village board or the plan commission, not GGF. So I don't know that I can take that forward.
Village board.
So,
But I mean, they'd have to direct me to do that. I mean, I can't just do that because I feel like it.
we have the agenda item on the village board this evening is agended the same way with the thought that both actions would be addressed at village board this evening as well. Certainly, you are correct that there is the provision within the current code that talks about at the direction of plan commission or the board in terms of some of the input. You also have, I think, broadly the authority to recommend policies as it relates to economic development within the village as well. And so I think you would have the authority to do it, even if the board didn't direct anything this evening.
So the question is, do I need to be directed to do something that I'm a chairman of? Whenever, I don't want a parameter put on me, you better get this done in 3 months or anything. I have a problem with that. I'm a brand new chair. Our first meeting is tomorrow for this new expanded commission, went from 7 to 9 with me as the chair. No, I'm just stating that I have a concern with putting a mandate or anything that you have to do this by a fixed period of time. I don't think that's fair. That's just my,
Well, there was no date with the motion. It's just for,
But you have just to
to work
go
on a
and
TID
do it.
policy,
okay.
is what the motion is,
Yes,
correct?
no dates.
The motion that was made by trustee Kaminsky is that Economic Development Commission come up with a flexible policy. No date. That was open and end up.
Flexible TID policy.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry, no.
All right,
No,
3,
I'm just-
4,
I
1
can't.
against.
You
Trustee
didn't think
Pepper.
being a trustee is this such fun, did you?
So it's
No.
3, 4, 1 against. Motion goes forward with no recommendation. All right, move on to item C, Summer Kids Club Field Trip Transportation Contract, and this is an action item.
Hi, I'm requesting $27,270.68 for our summer field trips. The money has already been budgeted for out our program supply and expense account.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed, motion carries. We are on to new business item D, request to amend operating budget to fund additional turf maintenance costs, and this is an action item.
So we have to make a motion to discuss, right?
Well, we've kind of been all over the place, so.
That's ideal.
Well, I do have a question. So I know this was sent to Total Lawn Care for a bid. Was this sent to anyone else for bids?
Total Lawn Care was awarded 2-year bid, so they're in the second year of that bid. So this fall, I'll go back out for bids.
So if we signed a 2-year contract with them, did it state anything about an increase and especially about an increase this large from 1 year to the next? Did we read through the Total Lawn Care contract?
Yes, we did. There, I believe the last 2 years have been the same. They haven't increased it. 25 and 26.
That's not what it says.
Excuse me, Gil, how long is the contract with Total Lawn Care?
It'll expire at the end of this year.
Okay, so what we
It's a
have,
2-year contract.
so for this year, for this year that's right now, is that what we're talking about now? That they said this is what we need from you to finish the work for the second year?
This is correct. yes.
So they're not obligated by contract to stay within, is there escalator clauses built into this contract, or how are they able to ask for, what is that, 40, 50% more? 60% more? It's $20,000, correct? 19,985 or something?
No.
No? Well, help me understand a little better.
We paid them, the 33,635
Okay.
and 25, and it's the same for 26.
So then why are we requesting to amend the operating budget to fund additional turf maintenance?
We're
costs?
not, we're just, we're asking for money to fund, both the turf care account and the Porta John account
Oh.
out of the athletic account, which is 1659000532020, because there was only $9,000 that,
Oh.
they budgeted into the account.
Okay, Terry, could you clarify, please? Because I'm still
No, I
lost
think
here.
it's just worded wrong, like on the agenda, because now I'm also hearing it's porta potties and turf care. And you don't have enough, you're transferring money between accounts to
Correct.
cover everything, but the money is in the account, is in the budget. And there's no increase on behalf of turf management, correct?
It was requested for and budgeted for and approved, but for some reason, the money was not put into the account.
That's a whole other topic, and that's even more concerning.
How does something like that happen?
Could I just add something here? And this was part of the transition from the former finance director, was there was a lot of things that were left on the table that we had to deal with. And this was one of the things that was handed to me. I wasn't entirely sure what this was, and we had not communicated well about this. So I will certainly take the blame for how this is noticed or how it's put on here. I do not have any idea why it wasn't budgeted properly, though.
But we have the money in the budget, correct?
That is my understanding. It just needs to be reallocated.
That's my understanding. That scares me too.
Another point of concern is that the dates of service say April 1st in a lot of these, April 1st, 2026 to October 31st, 2026, which we are more than halfway through the month of May. So was services performed in the month of April, and
Yes,
did we
they
just
have been.
not pay them?
Not paid yet, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I think, I don't feel comfortable passing this without a whole lot more information. I don't know about you guys. I make a motion to table this till next month, till we actually get to the bottom of what is going on and where
We done
funds
it.
are coming from, what accounts.
Thank you. I did speak with accounts in our finance department today, Jennifer, who advised that the first thing is in your packet, the account number that you received is incorrect. There was a typo on that. So I just want to clarify and confirm that. I believe that's 2020 is the correct number, Gil, from your account.
That is correct.
That's item number one. Item number two, it was budgeted for $9,000 initially. And I think that was cost for maybe the porta potties that were running around that $7,000 to $9,000 range. Additionally, the other item is when I spoke with Jennifer today, she was very concerned about the fact that we at least approve the amount that was asked for, because otherwise it would be late and there would be additional charges. So by tabling it will accrue additional charges. And it is my understanding, in prior conversations for this item, it was in fact budgeted for.
So what is the actual amount that needs approving?
The amount that is originally on your packet that's included on the agenda is correct. That would need to be paid to, immediately. The additional, I believe, and you can answer this, was it $1,600 was the difference that was off?
That is correct.
1,600.
Yes, ma'am. So if we can, if you as a committee tonight, if it's not approved and it postpones to the third week in June, there's going to be those late charges.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion. Terry, go ahead.
I'm struggling here with everybody,
Me too.
okay? But I think I have it. This money was approved in the 2026 budget,
Yes.
correct?
That is
Correct.
correct, yes.
So we sat here on the board and approved your budget. So
Correct.
we know that money is in the budget. It sounds like it has not been moved to the correct account, is what I'm hearing,
And
Mitch,
it
correct?
increased by 1,600.
Pardon?
And it increased by 1,600.
Because of the porta potties and the,
And the lawn care. It's broken down into two. You have athletic fields that we take care of, and then you also have the regular parks. And they all have porta potties, porta johns in there. So it's broke down in two different accounts to keep up with the money that's spent within the parks and within the athletic fields. And if I may add too, by the end of this year, with the charges that the athletic teams will pay, we'll come close to matching that $19,000.
okay, that does make me feel better. I mean, we have to get this paid. It's in the budget. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the, what did you ask for, Donna? What's in here, $19,385 from the corrected account, which you have the number of, to move this, to approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, and Gil, that extra $1,600 you need, is that part of this $19,000 figure, or you still need another $1,600?
That's a separate account, yes. It'll be short $1,600.
And the 1,600 we're short is just natural increases, or what is it? What is the 1,600 from? Just curious.
Well, the amount needed was 16,360, and the amount that I was given budgeted was 14,700.
We just approved 19,385. What am I missing?
This is 19,000 was put in the budget. It was just allocated to the wrong account and needs to be moved to the correct account.
So we still
Is
need the
that
16 on
correct?
top of that, but that's not part of any of our packet tonight. The
Uh,
only thing we have in here to approve is 19.
Right, right.
So you'd have to bring that back, I would believe. Because, but you're okay with the 19,385, you could
Yes.
pay your bills and you're good until next month, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I would let it go because it's not in here. We can't act on it. So, okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Is there any other discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I don't understand still.
Okay.
All right, 3 in favor, 1 abstain.
Yeah.
We move on to new business item E, recommendation to move contracted IT services to Washington County, and this is discussion and action.
Who's got this?
I can start off. Our attorney right now is taking care of some other things, so I'll lead us off, and Chief Merton is here to discuss this as well, and we have a representative from Washington County here, right there. So we can discuss this all together. First, Chief, why don't you come up and give us you have the memo in your packet that roughly describes the needs of the village and the services that are offered by Washington County. Obviously, the IT shared services document is in the packet as well. In short, this is services that would replace what we currently utilize with Capital Data. So a contracted service with a private company, we would be switching to essentially contracted services with a public entity. And in the process of doing so, and again, this is what we're doing here tonight, is determining what the direction of the village, not unlike the vote you took on the TID. We're signaling the direction of the village. The county board has yet to approve this overall plan. But so what this essentially does is say, yes, we're interested in moving this forward. And really what it is again, we're contracting with the county. We would contract with the county. The current proposal is to pay anywhere from $0 to $155,000 for support services. However, for that, we would receive 1.5 full-time employees that would be here in the village every week. So that's the rough outline of it. And Chief, would you want to fill in?
May I ask a quick, is this for the police only?
No, ma'am. This is for the entire. This
For
will
the
be
entire
for the.
village?
Yes, ma'am. And the Chief Merton can describe more accurately what his particular needs are, but the original idea was, if I'm understanding correctly, the original idea was to create an IT position within the village. So take a records clerk position and turn it into an IT position. However, that would give us one full-time employee. There were some problems with that. There were some shortcomings, obviously, that would happen because of that. And would generally that person would largely serve the needs of the police department, which uses a lot of our IT services. So this would be 1.5 full-time positions. That is a public entity that we already work with very closely. And yeah, Chief.
Yes. I had brought this to public safety a few months ago. And as I was doing that, I was talking with the Washington County IT. Eventually, they came up with the idea, instead of us hiring an IT person to contract with them, because they have more access to their systems at all times, we have better support instead of having to contact our person after hours and then to contact the sheriff's department or Washington County IT. The idea was for them to figure out an option for us that worked for us. They took all the bills that we had paid last year from Capital Data. It's attached to the document. In all, I mean, we still have the maintenance and the Microsoft licenses that we'd have to pay for. But as far as actual money paid, as far as wages, it was about 143,000. At that price, we don't get a live person here every day. We get them 1 day a week, at least at the police department. If they're here more at the village, I don't know. And that's not even an 8-hour day. They come, they do their stuff. They say, what do I need to do? If there's nothing to be done, they go to the village hall, fire department or DPW or wherever there's other tickets that need to be done. At that point, the county approached us on it, obviously, and they have to go and take it before their Public Works Committee to get approval to expand their IT services. They'd have to hire one person, if not two. They're working with some other jurisdictions. They have 7 of the 13 counties, or not counties, townships in the county that already use their IT services. On the timeline, May 21st, they have to take it to Public Works. June 10th, their county board would have to approve the expansion of the IT services. On June 18th, they'd have to take it back to Public Works to find the funding. And then on July 8th, their county board would vote on it. What I'm looking for here is just for us to have the interest in it instead of having the county do the legwork and for us to say, no, we're not going to do that. Basically have the initiative to just say, yes, we're thinking about it, put it forward to the village board. It probably won't go to the village board until July, because once the county board adopts the resolution, then we have to adopt a resolution here. We'll know probably before that on how much we're going to pay, if it's between 0 or 155,000. As far as the services, we have Eric Mesa, if I said that right, from the Sheriff's Department, the IT infrastructure manager. He can explain how they work and deal with all the municipalities on different types of softwares and programs. Right now, the police department has the same software that Washington County does, so that it's kind of a seamless transition for us. Most of our updates that we have to do are done by the Sheriff's Department anyways, because our IT doesn't have the licensing or permissions to get into this data. So, Eric.
Looking for here. And as far as IT services go, yeah, we're actually at 9 of the municipalities right now. A lot of what's already in place are systems that we are familiar with and are under our umbrella. So there's not going to be a ton of change. It's just a shift in services. So what we're looking at doing is offsetting those paid for contract hours, infrastructure monitoring hours, which is like just watching this network and servers. And we would be taking that on. We're doing that already with some of the other municipalities. So what that's just going to do is provide staff in the building, which is going to be a benefit to you and to us, because now there's going to be some shared knowledge. We're already using some of your the Pro Phoenix system for CAD and emergency management, dispatch, all that. you guys are already using that. So to have the shared knowledge of someone on site and to have our team, it would be a win for both of us. So that's kind of the overall. And then, yeah, you already went over the timeline. So as far as how that's executed. So yeah, we support cybersecurity, the systems monitoring, desktops, laptops, 24/7 management of emergency calls. So like something drastic happens, not just your general like, hey, printer's offline and it's 10 o'clock at night. So clarifying emergency management stuff, and especially with police data and CJIS compliance, which is criminal justice information. There are some pretty tight compliance things around that we just executed last year. And with that comes a lot of technical things, so we can assist with that as well. That's kind of the overview. Do you guys have any questions?
What communities are you currently sharing services with? I'm sorry.
It's in the packet.
But I mean, is it just police or is it everything?
No, it's everything, villages,
Okay.
town halls.
So nobody comes in
police.
with just one portion, it comes with the whole thing?
Correct. We have
Okay.
not gone that route yet.
Okay. And you would basically take over everything that we're currently paying for with capital data, correct?
Everything that they would typically come in for. So any like engineering level or time and materials for typical help desk calls. I'm trying to think, just like projects like that.
Okay.
Obviously, especially a village of this size, there's some outlaying, like custom type things, maybe audio visual that are more unique. Those typically are, we would work with those companies to help execute or implement or upgrade or whatever, but that we're not experts in those systems.
I'm going to defer to trustee Pieper, this is her field. But I would say, to me, it looks like a good idea to save some money potentially, to get everything in one ball where it's controlled in one area where we don't have to take on that responsibility anymore.
So I do have a question. Chief Martin said that the cost would be anywhere from 0 to 155,000 for services. How do we get to 0?
So that would be, from my understanding, if this is moved forward with interest from you guys, then we would be taking it to that date of presenting it to our public works, that's who our IT reports to, and saying, okay, now we're looking to move forward. And that goes above where I support, I'm IT infrastructure manager of, okay, where do those dollars land?
So it would basically come out of shared services with the county?
That is yet to be discussed. So I don't know if it's all paid for or if it's coming, because you guys right now are paying the 143,000 regardless of support, infrastructure, monitoring, all that, or is some of that stuff being paid pass through? That's what has to be figured out. And that's
Okay.
not my call.
Thank you. Trustee
I'll just
Pieper?
add, there are grants out there also for shared services. The county would basically look for those and write for those. As they take on other municipalities, they can write for those grants. Right now, we can't, obviously, because we're doing it ourselves. So come next year, they would be writing for that grant. I think they come out, one just closed. So probably in the fall, and then they'll award them in the spring.
Thank you. Trustee Pieper?
Okay. Chief, I know this has been an issue for you, that Capital Data hasn't properly been supporting us for some time now, specifically in the police department with your software. Remind me again what it's called? ProPhoenix. And I do know that the county has people specialized in ProPhoenix and they would be able to adequately support you. I would be in support of engaging the county for IT services specifically to help you at the police station. I would have a lot of concerns about moving the entire village's IT services to the county. And I know our village attorney isn't in here, but has he reviewed the potential governance or conflict of interest considerations with one governmental body then becoming another governmental body's technology provider? I also saw some errors with response commitments and escalation models. It's very unclear if we would be covered 24/7, not as far as monitoring goes, but as far as end user support for the police officers that are working third shift, that are having issues with whatever software that they're dealing with. And I would have to ask if you have engineers that are certified in Fortinet, not specifically Fortinet firewall, but Fortinet in networking equipment, the access points and the switching, because in the agreement there, it says that networking is only Cisco and we're running all Fortinet currently. And then I would need to know what solution that the county has for the insane increase of the VMware that we are currently running as well. And I know most businesses and municipalities are going away from VMware because it is such a huge increase. I would be concerned about the future county board budget decisions. Would that affect our service at all? Has Washington County completed a workload capacity analysis showing that you can actually absorb Germantown and take it on, because you've taken on several other municipalities at this point? I don't think that the cost comparison to capital data for staffing models, response times, and security compliance responsibilities, I don't think we are comparing apples to apples there. I'd be concerned about what happens if there's a countywide outage. I mean, I could go on, but
That's, I'm trying to take those all in. So, kind of in reverse, we're not merging the services. We're just continuing to manage what's there. So as far as like countywide outage, if anything happened on our side, the only ones that would really be affected if something went down would be like Pro Phoenix. It would be any municipality that's supporting those, but we have redundancy. We have Fortinet, we have Cisco, so we are familiar with managing all of those.
you have engineers certified in Fortinet?
As far as certifications go, we have some, but not in Fortinet. We also have other manufacturers. We are using VMware as well, and I think a lot of companies are on the boat of what do we do? What's next? We did transition one village over to Microsoft just because of the needs that they had. It actually was a better fit. And actually they just had a release of new features coming out, but yeah, that's where everyone's at right now. As of like 2 years ago, if everyone's price increases, that's a decision that has to be made. And that's why we're in this. It's to help project and plan and figure out what's next. It's obviously IT is dynamic, so.
Trustee Kaminsky?
Are we locked into this time frame, or is it something that we could put a little more effort in on our side to get answers, even if it doesn't follow exactly your from now till July timeframe? Is it something we can hop on, say, in August when we have a new village administrator? Because we're making a lot of decisions that are going to affect everybody
Yes,
working
yes.
So
in the
these
village.
dates were put on here because these have been like closest next steps to get the ball rolling if there was some
Yeah.
interest.
I mean, I could say from my perspective, I have a definite interest in this, but I think it's not fair to not bring on our new village administrator. So we probably need a little break here to all talk about it, staff to talk about it, department heads to talk about it, and make sure that this might be the direction we want to go in. And then Trustee Pieper can maybe have a meeting with whoever this group is and get some of her questions answered.
Yep.
I'm definitely interested. I think anybody who wants to save some money, and if this could be a better way for us to do IT, I'm on board. But we
I-
have to assure ourselves that that's the case.
I think this is the best solution for Chief Merton and the police station, 100%.
Mhm.
I don't know about taking the whole village on. That is slightly concerning to me, because you're kind of like an IT service provider, but you're also a governmental partner. I have many more questions
we
that
have
I
to get
would,
answered.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And part of this was you had some questions about absorbing additional workload. And that's kind of why we're doing this partnership, because as it stands right now, we cannot. And so with this is going to bring on 2 positions for us, one allocated completely to PD. And then the other one's going to be that 0.5
And then we have some other discussions coming up.
Because we would not be able to even apply for the grant for shared services to get an employee in. If we hired an employee for the chief, like he needs at the police station, we would not be able to apply for that grant because it's not shared services.
Mhm.
So by doing this, he would get an employee and it would be through the county. And we wouldn't have to pay for it, hopefully, because we could get the shared services grant to reimburse it. So that model, I feel very comfortable moving that forward, getting the chief an employee full-time at the police station. The whole, taking on the whole other village, I am not comfortable with that right now. I would have a load of questions that
Mhm.
not even anybody here, I don't think, would really be able to answer, especially our village attorney, whoever our administrator is going to be. I would like to talk to some of the other municipalities and see how things went, what they're handling, what they're not. And we really need an apples to apples comparison of capital data, who we've been paying to what it would look like paying this that's not covered by the grant. We need to look in the fine print of the grant as well. Sorry.
Mhm.
I make a motion, to move this forward for the police station alone right now with the village aspect, continuing conversations internally.
A good motion. I'll second that. Does
Yeah.
that work for you? I mean, we need to get our new village administrator to talk about the rest of the village. For sure. And so I know the timing is weird and you want the
Yes.
whole ball of wax, but we can't guarantee that probably till midsummer sometime.
Can that be split apart
So
from your side?
the pitch that we put together was for the two. So if there is interest, we will have to also do some discussion on our side.
I think there's interest, but we have a lot of questions.
Yes.
I just have a couple quick things. Is this just for like right now, you just support police and fire, or you don't support fire at all?
No, there's fire.
So for right now, you support police and fire and you like the rest of the village. That's your plan, right?
Yes.
Okay. So right now I did look at the map and the only municipality that you are totally bundled with or whatever is Kewaskum, which is much smaller than Germantown, very much smaller. It's 5,000 people. All the other things you have, according to the map that you provided, are towns, which are very small and easy to cover. To take on 35,000 people in West Bend, 22,000 in Germantown, 17,000 in Hartford and all that is a tremendous amount of load to put on the current business model that you have. And that's a concern is that, you know, I as a resident, I don't want to give up everything to the county. I mean, don't take that offense that I just don't want the county to run everything. And from that standpoint, if we as a village say, hey, we're going to make an agreement with them, now it's government to government. Like Trustee Pieper said, we have virtually no recourse because the way the state looks at things, counties have more power than villages. So we are ceding any authority we have to hoping that it all works out for everybody. We would have no recourse. There would be no look back period like, hey, it's not working out, help us out. It goes away and it's gone forever. And I have a problem with that personally. So.
That would create a single point of governmental dependency. And we would need to know would the county prioritize certain towns or villages over another if there's an issue going on in both of them? Are there other towns that's going to outrank Germantown? Lots of questions.
Well,
So I made
let's
a
just go
motion
with
to
the
move it
motion that
forward
we
for the
have.
police station to get him
Yes.
1.5 employees, right?
No, 1.5 would be the whole
One and-
village.
One and a
correct?
half's the whole village.
Oh, then just, you need one.
Well, they had it as an engineer and also an administrator would be the halftime, which basically would take care of the entire village. Basically, that half person would be the rest of the departments within the village. The engineer would handle basically all of the programming, everything for the police and fire departments. And if there was spare time, they would work on other
Yeah,
portions of the village.
I do want to keep it separate right now. I do want to give you a full-time employee through this grant. In the village, we can cross that bridge later. Does that work for you?
That's fine because they're working with other municipalities also. So they were trying to find another municipality to take up that half a body or person. So they were working with other municipalities. So if they find other municipalities that have deviate one person for those and we just want one, if we would actually want to go full in, with the entire village, they would have to hire another
We
person.
would need, you need one full-time.
Correct.
The village would need 1.5, I believe. I do.
The entire village was 1.5.
Yeah, and I would disagree with
Okay.
that.
No, that's another conversation.
Another day.
But the other thing to just to remember here too is with the county, we have Tyler Munis for our software. They have somebody that specializes in Tyler Munis. So if we have problems with that,
Mhm.
they would take care of that and they'd be on the phone with Tyler Munis. That wouldn't have to one of our employees. Same thing with me with our vendors. We're on the phone with the vendors. Capital Data comes in and says, hey, you got to do this. Well, no, you have to do that because now you're tying up somebody else. And just a point, I checked with some of the department heads. One of the department heads got back to me and Capital Data told her that she needed to order a desktop and a printer.
Yeah.
So
But it-
she ordered it and it sat in her office for
Yeah.
2 months before they installed
It
it.
is no
So-
secret that we need to move on from capital data, and I do think we can cross that bridge later on, but right now I would like to give you the authority to move forward to get you
Mhm.
properly supported. So I made a motion in a second.
Mhm.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Motion carries. Thank you. Move on to
Thank you.
new business item F, review of debt capacity for potential additional capital project costs, and this is discussion item.
we're gonna have to go quickly on this.
Well, Baird's here. so-
Dustin's here. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying we still have a lot on the agenda and we have 10 minutes. Yeah.
I'll make this quick. Good evening, everyone. So in your packets, I'll run through the 3 scenarios that Mitch kind of and I discussed over the past week. Inform you of your different options that you can take a look at for the next year. So to kind of recap, we talked about it over the last month or so. We just finished up the financing from 2025. Which, as you guys all heard, we projected a certain rate of X. We ended up coming in and receiving under a 4%. It ended up coming in about $971,000 in less debt service because of the better interest rate received. So that's good. It kind of just shows, we're trying to be conservative in our planning, right? But you don't know until you go out and get the interest rate in the marketplace of what you're going to receive. So that was good news. And that kind of translates into the first page on the left side, that net existing debt service. So that's all factored into the financing that we just completed. That's factored into that left side of the page. So that kind of sets the stage for how we want to look at things kind of going forward. So we've got that drop in the debt service starting in 2028 because the 2027 debt service levy should be pretty much well set now that everything is finalized and locked in. The middle of the page, the first kind of scenario that you see is $6 million for capital improvement projects. So nothing's changed from what you've seen in the past, other than the left side of the page that has been locked in. The building, we were projecting that at the $30 million in our prior example as well. So that's all kind of factored in. And you can see on the far right side of the page, that in the boxed area, that's factoring in future hypothetical borrowings, again, all dependent on your, if you go through the budget and you approve them or not. But this is what was in the 5-year CIP. Look, I highlighted in blue there because this is what you've seen before. The kind of the incremental increases to the debt service tax rate year over year before we get to a point where we essentially level off. And as I've shown you in the past, before it was leveling off at about $13 million because of the better rate that we received on the last financing. That's now kind of lowered down to the $12,950,000. Same kind of approach. So we try to keep it as apples to apples as possible. So that incremental increase over the next several years, and then getting to a point where we level off. So that's pretty much what you've seen in the past. Now, what Mitch and I, emailed me and we discussed is, if the building projects come in higher or there's more cost overruns related to that, or different projects are added to different building items, and say it goes from 30 to 36, what's the impact? What's the impact to the taxpayers by evaluating this? So we kept everything same from the first scenario to this scenario to try to make it as easy as possible. Same again, taking the incremental approach year over year. And as you can see on the far right, it does increase about 11 cents from the first scenario in total. So $11 per $100,000 evaluation. So the first scenario was $1.26 in total kind of impact over the next several years. To get to that point where before we level up, this one goes to $1.37 in total additional impacts over the next several years. And you can see we kind of level off at that 13 million for 450 to 460-ish type range. The last scenario says, okay, let's go. If it went up an additional $12 million in building related projects to $42 million, what is that going to be for a potential impact? And again, it's just showing that there's an additional 11 cents on top of the prior scenario. So, you know, you can take the 22 cents in total between essentially zero additional to additional $12 million. And you can cut it in half. So for every $3 million, 5.5 cents is what it's going to end up coming out to be. So we try to keep it, again, as apples to apples between the scenarios to show you what the potential impacts may be.
So I asked for this to be on because at the last village board meeting, the village president told me I needed to get on figuring out when we could have a second fire station. So I wanted us to have this information and compare it to the capital improvement plan, which you said you did see. Do you look at the capital improvement plan? Like the 5
From what I've
years?
seen, yeah,
Right,
from the
okay.
5 year, which is, yeah, kind of factored into the
Okay.
overall plan.
So in that 5-year plan, is there anywhere, if you know this off the top of your head, where would be a good place to slot in this second station? That's what I'm thinking about. Because you're basically saying if we add additional money now or to next year's borrowing, this would be our numbers.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's totally dependent on you. When is the need? Right? The need is now, here's what the potential impact. If we wait and you do it in a couple of years, you know, that's going to be not necessarily a benefit to you as a taxpayer, because it's just going to get kind of stacked
More.
on top either way. From a borrowing capacity and standpoint, that could definitely be helpful because you're growing, right? You are growing.
Trustee Kaminsky?
Actually, it's a question more for us. Do we even know how much a fire station, a brand new one, would cost? So we don't even know if these numbers are correct. We don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of money. It's probably a lot more than just that little increment to 42 million. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. So I just, you know, don't know when that's going to be possible, and we just got to bite the bullet when it is. Because we're just stabbing. To me, this is like darts. And somewhere over there is a dartboard, but it's kind of dark in the room. I'm just throwing in that direction, you know.
Trustee Heffley?
Well, I have a couple things. First of all, it sounds like what you're saying, and I read over everything. I do understand it. What you're saying is we can take on debt. Question is, how much debt do you want to take on and how quickly, and whether you want to front amortize, do leveling, or however you want to pay off that debt. So what you're saying is we have a capacity to take on debt. And you're saying it's up to us to decide when the timing of the project is. Do we go larger scope with what we're currently trying to do and have a station that costs less, and how that matches up? You know, I didn't hear specifics about, can you take on more debt? You know, and you're saying, well, just show me what you got and I'll tell you. But you're our municipal advisor in this instance, right? That's how you're advising us, is to tell us, we're asking you, is there an ideal thing to put it in there? And you know what we have coming before us. We're trying to provide guidance to our public safety folks about the scope of 2 projects, and the project in the future leads to what we do with the project now. Is there anything you might add to that to help us?
I feel like we just had a presentation in the last 30 days about our ability to take on more debt. Did I dream that, or did that happen?
No, you did.
Okay, thank you. Because yes, we have the capacity, but how much taxing do we want to do at this point in time? I personally would like to get a police station built first. That's what's on the docket now. And I would like to revamp the fire station, even with the extra couple $1 million, because we're going to need 2 fire stations probably into the future anyway. And to me, that is the logical way for us to proceed. It's not on the agenda, so I'll shut up about that. But I mean, let's fix the fire station, suck it up and fix it with the mold and getting all that cleaned up. And let that for the short term just be our fire station. We can't be taking on two gigantic projects like this unless you really want to see that credit rating take a dive, because that's biting off more than we could chew without even knowing if we're not going to have overages on these things. That just does not seem fiscally responsible to me.
I agree with that, and I wasn't disagreeing that we need to do what we need to do. I was asking the right path for us, and what it is like, is somewhat up to us. Yes, we need to remodel the fire station. We need to take care of the mold problem. We'll get to the one down the road, but obviously the police station has to be done. The fire station remodel and the police station have to be done. We don't have a choice in the matter. It's been kicked down the road too long, and we have to take care of it, and we will. The only thing I look for better to say is what is the best way to do it with the options that we have. And we've seen some of those. There might be more coming if we shifted that around. So,
Yeah, if you tell me that, hey, let's look at doing this in 3 years, we can model that out.
okay, thank you.
All right, anything else for Justin? Thank you for giving us this information.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to new item G, request to update the list of authorized signers for bank documentation, and it's an action item.
I'll move to update the list of authorized signers for bank documentation.
Okay, any discussion? All right, it should include the ones that are listed: President Soderberg, Clerk Ott, and Interim Administrator Reynolds. All right, all those in favor?
All right,
Aye. None opposed, that carries. Then we move on to reports. Any questions on accounts payable?
No.
I think we have time to go through this really.
All right, we'll move on to budget to actual. Are there any questions on that? No? All right, payroll. Any questions on payroll? All right, item D, contracts. Any questions on contracts? Any questions on the investments?
I have one comment. I see that Ayers is still listed as the end of April on the statements. We have moved everything over to IPA, or I'm not IPA, the insurance or the new investment person. Have we moved that all over? Director or interim administrator Reynolds, do you know that, or am I speaking out?
You direct me to what?
Well, the statements were in there that say Ayers on it. I know we moved on to a new financial advisory firm last fall, and I saw
Investment
statements
advisor, we have
through April.
our new investment advisors, PTMA, yes.
Yeah, have they taken over? Because
I,
At the last meeting that Director Uselstein told us that was in the process of being
yeah,
finalized with them.
it's just, it was finalized this month.
okay,
So,
thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, this meeting is adjourned at 7. Our next meeting is Monday, June 15th at 5:30 PM in this room, and this meeting is adjourned. Please give us about 5-10 minutes to reset, and then we'll start the village board meeting.